Welcome to the HabitStack Podcast, where we talk to fellow founders who are in the thick of things as they execute their plans to grow their business. Because stories about past successes are interesting, but hearing from people who are in the middle of the battle right now, that's invaluable. I'm Scott Ward, founder of HabitStack. I'm here today with Brent Peterson, who is up to several different things. He's the CEO of Content Cucumber. He's the president and founder of Content Basis and the host of the Talk Commerce podcast. We're going to hear all about the details. Brent, I'm glad you're on the show today. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
So give me the lay of the land. I rattled off a few things, and actually, I don't think it's complete. There's, from LinkedIn, there's a few other things you're involved in, but the big picture things, what are you up to and how do they all fit together?
Yeah, so content, my previous company was called Magento, and we were a solution integrator for Adobe, which was Magento before that. So we integrated e-commerce. I think I had to come up with something interesting that wasn't e-commerce or wasn't related to making web stores for e-commerce. So content seemed like the thing. I like to write, and so I got into some.
I already have questions. So wait, so you sold the previous thing and had a non-compete or something? Is that why it had to be different, or why?
Correct. Yeah. So I sold Magento in 2021, and I exited in 2023, and I started Content Cucumber, Content Basis, I should say, directly after leaving Magento.
Okay. So what is Content Base?
Yeah, so Content Basis, the original idea was using AI, and I came up with the concept before ChatGPT came out, but using AI to generate content, but having humans always there to edit it and make sure it sounds good. And what I found after some time was that people expected that it would be magic out of the gates. So think about when you hire a real writer, there's some time you have to do that. They have to get to know you. They have to learn about your voice and things like that.
Sure.
People wanted stuff like that. And so we did have some churn. We had some customer churn right up front. We had a lot of new customers that, right when ChatGPT came out, we had a great model that worked well, and I felt that I was an industry expert, that I could write about a lot of these topics, but a lot of times people wouldn't want to wait, and it was really just about time. They didn't want to wait for a lot of those edits to happen after it was created by ChatGPT or Claude or whatever tool that I used to create that content in the past. So I pivoted.
So they didn't want to wait for the expert writer to take it from 70 to 99.
Yeah. And then even after editing, they were like, well, no, this, even after a human touched it, there still has to be that learning phase, right? So it's kind of twofold. First, you have to train your GPT to write the way you'd like it to write, and then you'd have to come back and edit it the way the customer would like to see it. So there's a layering in there that has to happen, and that can take time, and over time, maybe people didn't want to wait for it. So I then, I attend a lot of industry events, and I learned as we've gone through this that a lot of industries professionals are valuing what comes out of human beings rather than what comes out of the computer. So I made this bet in April of this year that human writing is going to make a rebound. And I purchased Content Cucumber, which is a human writing company. So we have about 40 writers that write on contract for any topic. It was a huge range of topics before ChatGPT, but honestly, ChatGPT has just decimated the writing industry.
I was going to ask you about that.
And the marketing industry. It's been killed, and I think it took a big chunk of people out of the market that now the market is starting to want some of them back.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like developers. Similar dynamic in some ways. There's walking back some of these things about we don't need juniors anymore. I just read something about actually, well, maybe we should have some junior developers. Still paired with AI, but anyway, there is a walking back thing happening in other areas too. So like why do you think that, Brent? Like what, are people saying that, oh, I'm so tired of this slop, or like what makes you think that that's where the curve is going?
Well, number one, just talking to people at events, I think that people are seeing you can recognize when something's been created by ChatGPT. There's a voice that the LLMs have, and it's very constant. The voice doesn't change across different aspects. So if you're there as a marketer and you're just generating your content, you're throwing it into ChatGPT, and worst off, if you're not using a trained version, it's going to sound like everybody else's. So I think that's the first thing. And you're recognizing there's phrases that are coming out always. And I actually I've published now a database of overused AI phrases.
Oh, give me
That
a couple examples. That's awesome. Is
Yeah,
other
I
than
mean, I
M
think
dash, M dash, that's not a phrase, but that's
yeah,
one.
and actually M dash is a hard one to get it to not say because M dash is one of those things that's a little bit harder. But yes, M dash is definitely one of them. But Delve was one that came out right away when we first started. But I think it overuses adverbs and like actually would be one that it says a lot. Um, Phrases are the big ones, and phrases are specific to people, right? So like when I write on LinkedIn, I never say, or when I write a blog post, I never say I just published this blog post. Well, you're reading it, of course.
Right.
Nobody cares that in a week then I just published it, right? What impressed me most, I've learned to delve, what taught me the most, everything, there's just so many little things. And then
Mm.
there's some conditional phrases. Then something happened and the result was this.
I've heard that one. I've noticed people talking about that repeated theme or phrase.
Yeah. So I think that it's just really interesting on especially the phrases. And now you can understand where somebody came up with this content. When I read it, I can say it. And I also want to just tell people. And I think at some point I would like to be called out, and people have called me out on it, especially like if you want to take an article and you want to reduce it down and make a LinkedIn post about it. A lot of times people can tell that you've done that through ChatGPT. You've put all of it into an article and then you've condensed it into a LinkedIn post. And instead of writing a summary about the article, you've just taken ChatGPT and copy and pasted it. So
Right.
I think that's the other thing that people are recognizing right now.
That's such an interesting contrarian bet, right? That you're taking, Brent, to at this point to buy a human content agency. That's pretty cool. Because I think I thought it was the other way around. Actually, I was going to ask you about I thought that was the original business, and maybe you went into AI. You did the totally reverse. That's pretty interesting. So wait a second. So it's been decimated, and you just bought this agency that does the thing that's been decimated. So what's the other than there being a backlash, is there like a nichification, if that's a word, or is there some way that what's the flesh out the bet a little more?
Yeah, I think that the niche in the past for content, Cucumber has been writing for lawyers and realtors and e-commerce companies, and I think we're doubling down on that especially. But we're moving more also into the enterprise space where we're writing specific case studies and we're interviewing clients, taking that transcript, and a writer goes to that transcript and writes a really, really in-depth case study about a product or service that a client is launching. So we have platforms and SaaS platforms that we're concentrating on to write these case studies. And we're doing it, I feel, at a very competitive price. And we're also taking on the legwork of tracking down either the partner or the client who we need to interview. So that, marketing, the biggest problem in writing case studies is getting a hold of the client and getting them to agree that we're doing it. So, we're taking this approach that we're writing the case study up front. We're taking all the data we know about whatever that thing is up front. We're writing it, and then we're getting it more people involved. So we would send that case study to maybe it's the partner who helped do the implementation. Can you contribute to this? You're already mentioned this is going to be marketing for you, right? And then then finally, once we get a really robust case study, we say, hey, here's the case study we're going to publish. Would you like to contribute to it as the client? And normally 5 out of 10 times, or maybe 7 out of 10, or 8.5 out of 10, the client will agree that, yeah, I'd love to take 15 minutes or 30 minutes just to talk to you. I think a lot of clients think that case study process is going to take, hours and hours of their time. But honestly, we just do it on the phone or on a call like this. we record it. We just get their words and their narration of what happened during that process of the product or service that they have, and we write about it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I wonder, you're probably thinking about it this way, but it occurs to me that case studies have always been powerful, but they're probably going to be even increasingly powerful, because this is what, presumably, assuming you trust that it's all legitimate, is that these are humans talking about the thing, and AI is making humans valuable. Like their opinions are valuable, right? These are not just copy that you came up with on your landing page that sounds good. Huh. So on your, I was looking at your business model is very interesting, at least part of it. And I'm wondering how it all marries together, because what I saw was like basically a productized service. Like you pay a certain amount per month and you get a certain number of words written. But that sounds different than the case study thing, or is it the same, or what's the
the case study is a flat price. So we're charging $1,500 for a case study. The word, I do think that the cost per word has to change, and we are looking at how can we make writers more efficient. We do have to pay writers a living wage. So, at the end of the day, we have to find efficiencies, and if people are unwilling to pay X amount for a blog post, then we have to find a way to get the blog post at a more reasonable price, so a price that the client would agree to. And we also have to make sure that it's not just getting spit out of ChatGPT, because anybody can do that, right? We need to have something unique that we offer to the client, that it's just, hey, we'll just edit your output of ChatGPT, because really the client can do that as well, right? So I think, some of the problems we're solving on the blog posting is topics, coming up with a queue for the client in advance to help them to know, here's the topics we have coming up in the next 8 to 12 weeks. We've added social in with it. We've added some video and some images, like through Instagram. So we're trying to add on more services that give value to what the blog posting would be. So in addition to whatever words you're paying for, you'd usually get then a group of social messages that's related to the blog. And actually, AI is really good at extracting and rewriting whatever you've written originally for a short social post. And then we're using, just Canva, things like that, to create those images that the client would like, or better yet, we would use their marketing images for the material that we would put out on Facebook or Instagram, or whatever the client, wherever their best avenue is. And then we are doing some very light video for the clients, and we're just using Riverside to do the editing for that. So it's not professional. We're not sending a crew out to do a photo or a video shoot, but we are doing some light editing so they can have video as well. So we could do reels or even blog posts, or podcasts, things like that.
Oh, that's cool. The peripheral things, kind of like with the content, with the case studies, like the logistics, of helping with the logistics, that makes a lot of sense, and something that you can't just drop into ChatGPT. So can I ask you a little bit about productized services, kind of apart from the current moment of threats in content generation and AI, but also your move to, I quite like it. I quite like the fact, I'm very attracted to the idea that I could press a button, pay $500 a month to try it out, and get a certain number of words, and I don't know, and not have to know exactly the scope of what I want you to do. I can just get started. There's 3 things I can think of. I could just send them to you and we can try it out, and I can cancel next month if I don't like it. To me, it's like a very nice way to engage with the service. And I wish more people would do it. I wish that was kind of like the standard, because a lot of times you have to know so much about the scoping and what you want, and it's such a pain to get started and just try it, right? There's a couple small things that I just want right away, and then let's just take it from there. So to me, it's a very attractive model, but how have you found it? Were there any challenges? I guess you bought the business and it already had that model. Is that right?
Yeah, it has that model. We did add, like I said, we added the social after.
Right.
The basic model was just writing articles and blog posts, and I think In today's world, the niche of writing just content, if there's a downturn in the economy, the content people are the first to go.
Mm,
And if there's a new product called ChatGPT, the content people are the first to go because now ChatGPT can do all your content,
yeah.
right?
So what have you like? Because your previous business, I think it didn't sound like it was a productized service, or was it?
No, and really, we would have gotten more for it when we sold it if it was a productized
Right.
service.
Right.
It was definitely a service-based service, and so content basis is now moving into that. We're a HubSpot partner, so we're doing more of that service work rather than just productized services. We're doing, LLM things around helping people implement an LLM thing, and maybe implementing CMS systems, that type of work.
Is there what are your observations? Let's say there's somebody listening who is thinking about productizing their service. Uh, so something you feel like is generally smart? Any pitfalls? Like, what are your reflections having run both kinds?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can productize your service and have a human involved, the hard part is scale. So I feel like one thing that Content Cucumber has done very well is the ability to scale the humans. And they've done that through, and we've done that. Sorry, we've done that through lots of contractors, and we've had up and downs where people have come on and said, "Hey, we'd like this huge amount of content done in the next 3 months," and we've been able to have a network of writers that we can go to that help us fulfill that. So I think that that's the hardest part. And as a developer, my previous company was all about developers, pre-Claude Code. Um, you'd have to find a developer who's qualified, and then you'd have to find one that's available. And then getting a developer onboarded to a project was always really hard because the knowledge that it was required in getting that done was also hard. So I think that it was harder to productize. Well, it's almost impossible. Maybe it's more possible now to productize the development part of it, outside of Replate or whatever these new AI tools are. Where I think what we're doing, having a writer involved and having a way of understanding the client quicker is what I'm trying to do. And I have a new tool that I've been working on to help writers understand the brand voice of the client up, when they're onboarded. So I
Hmm.
think that's some of the efficiencies we're doing in scaling. Let's call it scaling humans, because I think that's kind of what you have to do as a service product business.
Right. So if you can, what would you say are the advantages that you've seen if you can figure out how to? The, I mean, the scaling part is true. Less of a service company, regardless of whether or not it's productized or not. Um, right. And so, what are are there any pitfalls specifically, or advantages that you would call out specifically around a productized service versus a, what do you want to call it, like a custom or like ad hoc or project by project
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
type
mean,
of business?
certainly the advantage is scale, and if you have a product that is a SaaS, that scale is as much as you want to spend on AWS or Google Cloud. I think that's your restriction, and maybe then the ability to help customers if they're having issues. So I think a lot of maybe SaaS breaks down where they're not able to respond to customer requests, and I can think of Calendly came out with this bot, and I asked the bot, and I got it put into a bot loop, and I was so frustrated. It was like the worst experience that I've had with customer service.
Right.
And I know it's getting better now for all bot based customer services, but like if there's no exit out of the call tree, out of your bot tree, man, I'm gonna quit, right? I'm not gonna sit there and argue with a bot. I already argue with Claude Code and it doesn't listen.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is
but
the
having
worst. Right.
Yeah, so I think that's really because now humans are still going to have to be involved. So I think that the idea of an entrepreneur doing everything by themselves and having all these AI agents that are helping you out, at some point nobody wants to talk to an AI agent because you're going to get the same old, same old.
Yeah. So you said that you're working on a product to help, in this case, writers get up to speed on the vibe, or the brand voice, etc., for our new customer. And I've thought about this also in the context of a designer. Surely there must be like a set of questions that a designer asks in order to, are you a lighthearted, or are you professional? Are you like a bank, or are you like I don't know, a clown? So there's got to be some way to quickly get up to speed, and I think maybe a bot would be really good at that. And so I've kind of thought about this a little bit, but you've actually done it sounds like, or maybe I'm off track. Correct me. What is it that you're working on, and how does it help?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the creation of that persona, we'll call it a persona. I've been working on that for a year now. And I started last year. We moved to Hawaii, and like the afternoons are everybody's done on the
Right.
mainland. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start coding. And I got excited about some of the coding tools out there. So I started building this app because I use a writing tool, and I wanted to make sure that my voice in the writing tool was always consistent. So I started this process, and I've started. I actually started with the 12 archetypes that are out there, and I don't have them memorized, but that's a way to get started. Like you said, asking questions. And then I think you get caught into if you depend too much on AI, you do get caught into complications, right? And eventually I had like 65, I had 43 questions, and each of those 43 had three sub questions. So you could see how long it took to get through that. You really have to have some patience with AI to get to where you want to be. And now I have 5 categories and maybe 21 questions that help understand the brand. That's to get your brand up there. The important part, though, is that whomever is writing, and really the idea came from if we have 40 writers or 60 writers or 80 writers, and we have a big group of clients and somebody goes on maternity or goes on vacation, how do you ensure that that client is coming back and having their voice sounding the same? So the tool, what it does is I can upload the writer can upload their content against the tool, and it'll tell them how much it matches the client
I
voice.
think that's really smart. Like AI is really good at that kind of stuff, like classification, right? Like it's not to generate it necessarily, but to classify it. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's where my overused phrase database. I do something called dynamic injection. So I inject the brand and then also the overused phrases, and so hopefully we don't get those. And I think the one hard one is the EM dash that it doesn't always recognize. But for the most part, I can now train any agent to learn and how that brand should sound if you're using it just for your social posts, or it's a lot harder on long form, but social posts or anything like that in short form material, even 2,000 word blog posts can start by sounding like the client. And then of course I still think an editor always has to go back through it, but what you can also do is take whatever the writer's edited and then have it run against it, and it should tell you how close it comes. And if the client objects, you can say, hey, here's what you've said in your questions. What don't you agree with this? Which then helps the updates and helps their brand.
Yeah. So is this something that like it is a lead gen for you? Like it's available at some URL. I can go and give you my email address and try it out, and then you start to, convince me to sign up for a content basis as a customer.
Yeah, I mean it's at requesttest.ai, so it's
Oh,
out
cool.
there. I have a domain for it. I don't know if it's production ready yet, but certainly it's available to try, and I'd love to get people using it and ask me questions. It is that classic thing where you have a developer doing something and that they've done something the same way over and over again, and they know what buttons to push and not to push. And once you start getting other people involved,
Sure.
then they'll start pointing out, and that's exactly what I need. And I think on the website I'm looking for 20 people to help me out just to do that
Try
kind
it.
of getting out of alpha into beta.
Oh, that's cool. I'll give it a shot. I have somebody who helps me with the podcast, or a podcast editor, and we're working on getting our a meeting of the minds in terms of how the post should sound and stuff like that. Because he does a version and then I edit it, and and it would maybe be useful, right? Maybe we should run these things. We should use it for that exact case. But yeah, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, I think the big thing, and my business partner Isaac has said, is that the integration points. So we already have a Shopify integration, we have a WordPress integration. I think those are the exciting bits that I'm most excited about. And we had a launch or a beta launch or a pre-launch of our Shopify product that's working, and it's really exciting how easy you can create content. We're creating content on the product, not just about anything. So we're using the client's product to create more content about the product. And I think the reality is, and I have a scope of what a lot of clients have for product content. And a lot of times, like some of these products have 27 words. So if you have a product with 27 words, it's going to be really hard to get picked up by LLMs
Right.
about that product. So
Right.
I think that's some of what we're trying to do is help. We're helping your product catalog be better by writing more content around it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So a little bit of a pivot into the business side of things, or the internals, maybe I should say. Do you have a management team that you use to run content basis, or is it fairly flat, or like what's the structure that you have set up in order to keep things rolling?
Sure, we have a leadership team. We're using EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System. We're using Strutty as our provider for our EOS meetings. We do L10s. If anybody wants to know or knows about EOS, I think it really helped us in my previous company. And we're trying to hold on to all those EOS values and what we're
Right.
trying to do. So we do a quarterly planning meeting, and we do rocks, and we're doing all these fun things that have come with EOS. The biggest part is your L10 meeting. If you start on time, end on time, you've set agenda. A lot of times we finish early now. We have issues that everybody puts in, and I think it's been a great way to keep things rolling smoothly. We have an accounting meeting, so we go over P&L every week. We have a leadership meeting, like I said, but we have a marketing meeting and a sales meeting. We have a salesperson out there that is involved as well. And, we go over pipeline and all those other fun things, but we have a set agenda. We do the same thing over and over again every week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, L10 meetings, a lot of people say that's like the most valuable part of EOS.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, it's a good structure. So what was the tool that you said? I think you said it was like a software tool that you used to run
Yeah,
meetings?
it's called Strutty. Let me find it really quick. It's STRETY.com. And we used to use Bloomreach, which, they've kind of broken away from EOS. I tried EOS 1. I tried 90.io.
Yeah.
But Strutty is a startup, and they're kind of spunky. So
Right.
yeah, it's been a good. I've had a good experience so far with them.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about what were the symptoms or the things that you were experiencing that made you start to realize, I need something like EOS. Maybe you knew about EOS, or maybe you didn't, but it's kind of started to. You didn't do it for nothing, like what were the inciting experiences that made it so you pursued it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an entrepreneurs organization, and that's just seems to be in the DNA. And I even started in Accelerator, which is the program that they have if you're below $1 million. And we do a quarterly day, and you have all these speakers that come and talk to you, and you're gonna meet implementers. I'm from the Twin Cities, and Minneapolis seems to have, I don't know, 40 implementers. It's a crazy amount of people.
Right.
And I think at some point in the mid 2010s, we wanted to make sure that our business was ready if we wanted to sell it. So we took, we had 5 years of onboarding. We hired an implementer to get us up to speed, and it made sense, right? We had a big team. We had about 60 people. So we had everybody involved in a meeting, all the way down to we had developer meetings.
But what was it? So what was it? Let me ask you, Brent. So what, if you can remember, like what was the thing that you said you wanted to get ready for a possible sale, but in what way were you not ready? Like what would have happened if you would have just go for the sale without, going through the process?
Yeah, I mean, hey, let's start. But should we start at the bottom or the top? So like just having a playbook, right? We called it the Wagento way. So we did not have here's how we operate, right? We did not have an SOP for every process. We didn't really have a good idea, know where that process should start and where it should end. the EOS it's an open source thing. You can go and get the toolbox yourself. And we just used an implementer at the time, but there is a GWC, get it, want it, has capacity, like right person, right seat. There's so many little concepts. I think I read the book Traction. I think that's where I got my first inspiration. Somebody told me to read the book by Gino Wickman, read the book Traction. And they talk a little bit about maybe it's the Rockefeller habits or
Right.
scaling up. And that's where it really kind of made sense that we need a system in place. I think a lot of companies have meetings that just go on and on and on,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's no format to it. And people are just like, we're wasting our time.
Yeah.
So this really put us into place, not just from accounting standpoint, and that was really important, but having a structure in place and having goals for leaders and having a leadership team, and then having everybody understanding what they should be doing as a leader, and having those issues where we can IDS them, identify, discuss, and solve those issues. So obviously there's things that we didn't always do well. And I think there's some things inherently in EOS that you can do better at, or you could even make it your own EOS. But in just having that framework was really important for us.
Is there something in particular that you've kind of made your own? Like what's a tweak that you've found necessary to make?
Yeah, I think EOS a little bit, it lacks a little bit of strategy in there. Like I think having some strategy, you have a marketing plan that you do, and you do a marketing strategy, and it makes you do a demographic and psychographic and things like that. But there isn't a lot of emphasis put on what should you be doing for a strategy. And honestly, you can make your own EOS implementer GPT now. And I think that's been a great way to say, hey, what should I do in this situation? Or even in planning, having a trained bot that helps you as just a facilitator to do the right steps. And you'll save, I think it's $8,000 a day. I love my EOS implementers, but it's super expensive, right? Like, so, a weekend planning is going to cost you $16,000 to $24,000.
Right. Right. Yeah, that resonates with me. There's it's kind of how to operate, how to do, EOS is good for how to operate a business where there's a lot of, there's things are known.
Yep.
And, maybe a little bit less about like, wow, we don't even have product market fit, or like, we don't know what the pivot is going to be. And, it's like exploratory. That's maybe why it doesn't have as much traction in kind of like the raw startup world. I think it's because it's a little bit rigid for a highly dynamic situation where you're really trying to transform yourself. It's not, I guess maybe the way to say it is EOS is focused on operational excellence, which is really valuable. But it's not the focus for every business, actually. I mean, it's table stakes, operational adequacy maybe is where you need to be when you're at a different place in your business. What do you think that's true? Do you think I articulated?
Oh, absolutely. And I think as a smaller company, it's harder because, if your leadership team is you, like you want to have a meeting with yourself. I don't know if that really helps. Like if you're a solopreneur, that makes no sense to do EOS. At some point as soon as you have a team, maybe 5 people or 10 people, then it starts to make a lot more sense to get everybody involved in it. And then I think you're right too. Like the question, if you don't hire an implementer, the implementers are really good at asking some of those questions, like what are we missing? And even offering like, in the beginning, I think we had a leadership team of 8, and he's like, well, trying to figure out why everybody's here. He kicked 2 people off. It's like, they really don't need to be here, So, and having that person tell them instead of just the leader, the CEO telling them, hey, you're not welcome here anymore. Like having them understand, why aren't they welcome? They are welcome, but there's just no role for them.
Right. Cool. Well, Brent, I appreciate you coming and talking about a variety of things here. What you're up. Oh, I know one thing. If you have time, I wanted to ask you about the podcast. It's the one thing we haven't touched base on. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I think I started the podcast as a creative endeavor to figure out what am I going to do while I'm the president of Wagento. And, I think I felt like all the creativity was getting sucked out of me because I was suddenly working for somebody. And I needed to find a way to be creative still. So I started the podcast in 2021, and I've just been having a weekly podcast ever since, and it's been really fun and get to meet people, like you, Scott, just talk about whatever the topic is. And now, we're 300 and some episodes into it, and we don't ask for guests anymore because guests are always reaching out. So the problem really is who should we accept and who shouldn't we accept, which is, I guess, a good problem to have. But yeah, it's been a real fun venture and journey, and really it's turned into sort of now a media arm of Content Cucumber, and we have a new like a live series we did today called Content and Commerce, where myself and Isaac Moray and David Arago get on a live stream on LinkedIn, and we just talk about GEO, AEO, performance and content, things like that. So it's 15 minutes. It's super quick and easy, and we hopefully talk about relevant topics that are good for the content business.
Yeah, cool. Have you found that to be a good way to go? Like those live, I can't remember what they're called on LinkedIn, but the on platform type of events, I think they call them. How's that been for you?
Yeah, I think we've seen a good, healthy growth in viewerships and people joining. So it's been fun. We publish live on LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time, and it's been fun. I probably need to like look at who's there in real time, or maybe have a moderator who can be there to ask or answer questions, and maybe that'll be happening next year. But I think exploring any of those avenues are good. And I will say that we do get little snippets that, especially Isaac says out of our conversations, that we can use later for social media stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I've thought about trying it out as well. So it's good to know that it's working for you. Brent, okay, podcast, Content Cucumber, Content Basis, and also requestdesk.ai. Lots of things that you're up to. I appreciate you coming on and tell me about it. And also the different productized services, an area of interest for me. And it was interesting to hear your experiences there, and also your reverse contrarian play to go towards human writers. Sounds smart to me. I also prefer reading from humans, so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great rest of the day, Brent. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. It's been a fun conversation.
Founders, if you're struggling to manage goals and execution with your team, HabitStack can help with that. I'm Scott Ward. Thank you for joining me on the HabitStack Podcast.